All right. And today we actually just focusing on one thing because we have a lot of talks about infras and for fundamental technologies. And we actually are really focused on one thing related to users, is the gas fee. And I introduce you guys the GasZero, the project we're doing is to try to enable buildings to embrace the Web3 with a zero gas fee and also frictionless experience. I think this is not really strange to everyone because as everyone become a Web3 users, you have a long journey to go. You have your wallets, and you need getting cryptos, and then you need learning how to interact with all the smart contracts. And I always use this metaphor with my friends. Become a Web3 user is like a journey to EMBA, executive MBA. Because as long as you have a wallet, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to buy cryptos, you need to understand like why Bitcoin was money. So you need to learn the fundamentals. It's really similar to keep starting with the Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, the lecture one. And then you try to holding cryptos, and then you're learning how to do QSCs in exchanges, and then you buy things. And at least, you try to be a Web3 user with the mentality of decentralization, and you try to holding your assets, manage your assets, trying to generate the revenue in this realm. And that's the real Web3 users. So this is a real journey. It's like a 2 years executive MBA journey. And what we found, previously I did a lot of programmatic paid ads to buying traffic for apps and monetize for apps. And we see a lot of funnels, we did a lot of search. And for Web3, it doesn't matter if you are a Web3 GameFi project or you are a project doing DeFi's. When you try to convert users from the Web2, you have to go through these channels. In the middle, we have the wallet. We have the 3 layers of users. We have wallet users, we have crypto holders, and then the Web3 users. Actually, all these users, they have a different interaction activities. And for wallet users, you need to get rid of the seed phrase, and then you need to get rid of the fiat to crypto barriers, which means you need the KYC, you need the OTC suppliers to buy cryptos. And then you start being interaction with the blockchain networks. However, you need to pay gas fee every time when you interact. And then in the last 2 years, we see a lot of service providers, they try to do things to solve these barriers. And then we saw the MPC wallets who try to using a social login to allow you to have a wallet with just the email address or with the phone numbers. And then we see that conversion rate actually increased at least 4 times. And then we have on-off-ramp services who actually allow you to use Apple Pay or PayPal to buy cryptos, to pretty much get you jump into crypto space as much as you can. So that's on-ramp service, increasing the crypto holders to another level to increase 10 times of the conversion rate. And then we see, because it's a long journey, there's an educational period needed. To become a Web3 user, you first need the mentality and then the knowledge behind it. So that's why you need really a buffer time and an educational time for the users to convert, really become Web3 users. So that's why we see actually there's a chance there to get zero gas interactions for the first few transactions for users to learn and to become Web3 users. And here comes the next. Like if you want to achieve zero gas fee, how do we achieve? However, this is a concept for users only. As a Web3 builder, we know the gas fees are designed for security and for the resource allocating and for the sequencing of the transactions. So it's really, really hard to get zero gas fees overall. However, we can get zero gas fees for users. And here's some design principles. if you're trying to getting zero gas fee for users, you need to be affordable as an overall system. And then because you down to zero, there will be a lot of attacks, potential attacks. So your system has to be defensible. And the third one is, if you're getting zero gas fee, what's the whole purpose? The purpose is getting dapps, having more users, or increase their retention rates for all users. So that's why the system has to be justifiable. And if we come to the three things we try to do, that we try to break down the cost factors, and we see if we were using a layer 2 structure and we're using a ZK rollup as the core structure. So we have three cost factors. That's the ZKP proofs, as we allocated in the last panel. And then we have cost factors to store the data into the data availability infrastructure in a layer 1. And also the federal settlement paying for the miners. So once we have all these factors divided, we actually put them back into the equation. So the simple thing is the core purpose is to drive down the cost per transactions as much as possible. In the equation, it's very simple. You decrease the numerators and increase the denominators at a given time period. So for these three particular things we try to do is the first, we're considering to use optimizable DA for Ethereum. And then we're looking for the latest technology to doing the ZKP. And the second, the last and the most important is to finding the real use case. So this is a very important slide that I'm trying to share is in Web 2, we're actually using a lot of free model of the service. The model is called, you first come, and then you stay, and then you pay. So that's the freemium model for Web 2. And this also happening in Web 3 world. We're actually trying to bring the freemium model to Web 3 because we think it is the time. We're spending more than 5-6 years building infra. Actually, in the last few years, we're putting a lot of, basically put a lot of money building the infrastructures. And the infrastructure is at the tipping point that can supporting more use case with high frequency transactions. And the paradigm shift is the dapps. When they're trying to attract new users, they should use the real use case, providing service for the users. And the users was attracted by the use case. So that is a really healthy ecosystem in the Web3. And then they actually, the cost of the transaction can be mitigated to the dapps paid by the infra fee. And here is the structure. And because of time, I just make it really short. Basically, we're trying to extract the module of security, the module of risk sequencing, the module of credibility, how we trust the users, and getting sponsorship from the dapps, and providing an extra data level for the dapps to generate their own policies to sponsor for all the transactions. The thing is, if we modify things in a node level, we actually can achieve maximum user experience and maximum flexibility. So that's how our solutions. And there existing solution of gas-based transaction which is perfect. But if you operate in an application level, or you operate in a contract level, which means you actually still introduce new costs during the time when you relocate the gas fee. Actually, maybe the dapps will pay $1.2 to sponsor a gas fee should pay $1. So that's our network's value proposition. Actually, it's the design principles once we achieve. It is affordable network for dapp developers to develop, and they renovate their business model, and the network is really defensible as we're adding extra layer of the securities. And then the third one is, I call for the builders, for the next generation, they really create their dapps in the new model, trying to bring real value to the users. And there's the one-liner, is the chain with the killer apps wins. So that's why I want to use these opportunities to announce that the testnet of GasZero goes live today, and you can now deploy your tests. It's the Ziggy event compatibles, and if you have any questions, just send the email to the build@GasZero.com. And we already have more than 30 dapps in our ecosystem, and there are more to come. And finally, before I finish my talk, I want to introduce a little tool that we developed. Is you can scan the QR code, and you can just copy your wallet address within 5 seconds. You can get the total gas fee you spent on Ethereum, on Binance Chain, and on Arbitrum. So this tool is called GasZero. What we're trying to do is how much gas fees you have spent, and you can save with GasZero. Thank you, everybody.